Mm-hmm.
Welcome to Meet the Author, where you can join in on insightful conversations with best-selling and award-winning indie published authors. Your hosts today are Rob and Joan, who themselves are indie published authors, book publicists, and paranormal investigators with Tampa Bay Spirits, based in Tampa Bay, Florida. Thanks for dropping by. And now, on with the show.
Hi, I'm Rob.
And I'm Joan. And whether you're watching us live or if you're listening to the audio later on, or if you're joining us from WDJY 99.1 FM in Atlanta, we're really glad that you decided to be in our audience.
Welcome aboard, everybody. Okay. Want to talk about tomorrow night, 9 o'clock, WDJYFM.com or 99.1 FM in Atlanta. You can listen to it live on the radio. We'll have our show there. And then next, let's see here. Also, tomorrow night, Joan and I will be on the Voice of Indie podcast with Beam Weeks and Gary G's. That's at 8 o'clock. And at the end of the show, it tells you how to get on. End of our show tonight, it'll tell you how to get over to Voice of Indie podcast. If you have any trouble finding it, you can always email us at carternovels@aol.com and we can clue you in on that. Saturday, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time, episode Rewind. And then that's every Saturday right here where you're watching right now. Next Wednesday, it'll be our local Tampa author, Steve Altier. He's been on before. He's going to be on again to talk about his new book.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
We've done conventions with him.
Do we want to say hi to people?
I do want to say hi to everybody. Joe Conjal says, good evening. Well, he said, God evening, Rob and Joan.
Oh, that's even better.
Yes. And Marjorie Deering said, hi, Rob and Joan, another Wednesday already. Yay.
Hi, Marjorie.
Joy Shelton York said, hi, Rob and Joan. Hi, Joy. And Chris Chrisman.
Hello,
good
Chris.
evening, Rob and Joan. I'm so glad that you're able to join us, Chris.
Yes. Yes.
Hope your wife is doing well and you're both doing well.
Right.
Yep.
Got an update on our audio downloads for the program. We have just crested 88,000 downloads of all of you authors. Not each, that's total, 88,000. And the top 6 countries that are doing all this downloading, of course, the U.S., and I think it said 76% is U.S.
Oh, that's a lot.
Number two is Bangladesh.
Huh.
Number 3 is Japan. Number 4 is Israel. Number 5 is the U.K. Come on, U.K., step it up. And India is number 6.
That's funny. Bangladesh has always been one of our big listeners.
Yeah, and that's
Hello,
great.
Bangladesh.
Hi, everybody
from
in
Tampa,
Bangladesh.
Florida. We're really glad that you're listening. Chris Chrisman says they're doing better. I'm
Good.
glad to hear it.
Good.
You are really going to enjoy our guest tonight.
I think so.
Oh, Joe Conjal says, that's awesome. Congratulations. Oh, on the 88,000. That's really good.
And also in the news, I finished your book, Joe, today, just about an hour ago. So
the first one.
The first one.
The first one in the Magnolia Bluff series.
Yeah. So
I'm reading this.
I will get you your review tomorrow, hopefully. I'm going in for a little minor surgery tomorrow. But I'll try to get it in before I go. Also in the Magnolia Bluff world, Magnolia Bluff Crime Chronicles mentioned Joe's second book, which is book 26, Catch a Tiger by the Toe. I'm looking forward to reading that one, except it's a little scary.
I bought my copy and I'm reading it.
There we go. That's by Joe Conjo, by the way. And then book 27 is also available for pre-order, and that's by Brakefield and Berkey, The Ransom Enigma. It's available for pre-order. It'll be available to read on August 20th. That'll be a new release at that point.
As I said, you're really going to enjoy our guest tonight. Let's bring him on without any further ado.
If we have to.
Very funny. Hello.
Hi, George.
Hello, Rob and Joan. Hello, listeners.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Hope you're doing well.
We are doing well. We had so much fun in the pre-show with George. I mean, he's had such an interesting life. And also, Rob is really, really happy because let me show you what his first book was. Cereal Wars.
Yeah.
30 years, right? 30 years of lobbying for the most famous tiger in the world. And
my main man, Tony. Yeah.
Yes. And of course, Rob, you'll appreciate this, Joe. The first thing that he said was, I've always wanted to see
Captain Crunch fighting General Mills. It's a likely pair up,
Chris says, hey, George.
Hey, Chris, how are you? Wait, Rob and Joan, first of all, I want to thank you for having me on. It was a lot of fun before the show, and I'm sure we'll have a lot of fun with the show.
Yeah.
And
I think so
I have to tell you, my great power in life before we get into books, though, you talk about Tony the Tiger, was I could have Tony the Tiger write people, little kids for their birthday, grandfathers for whatever. It was like my great power of life. I could have Tony the Tiger write people.
That's huge.
It was huge. Yeah, people loved it.
That is huge.
It meant a lot to a lot of kids, I'm sure.
None of the rest of us could do that. I'm kind of jealous. That's amazing. That was a good job.
What
I
power.
know. Yeah. I know. You could wield a lot of power with Tony the Tiger being at your whim,
You got it.
That's really, really awesome. Yep. Well, before we get into writing books, do you want to explain what you did for Tony?
I was the vice president of government affairs for Kellogg Company, and I was with them for 25 years. I loved it. It was a great company. I got to travel the world, meet a lot of interesting people, and my first, maybe if I could just digress from that for a second, was the idea of writing the book Cereal Wars came from my life at Kellogg. And I worked with a lot of really smart people. They had MBAs from all sorts of fancy schools. And there was a fellow that was about to become the new CEO. And I had recently left the company at that point, started my own lobby business. And he called me up and he said, could you come see me? And I said, sure. So I go to his office and he said, I'm really comfortable with all the aspects of this business. He said, but the one part I don't know anything about is government relations. What in the world does that entail? And I thought, that's interesting. So I called the dean of the business school and I asked her, I said, do you teach government relations? And she said, well, no, that's political science. And I said, well, every major company in the United States has a government relations department, just like sales, finance, and marketing. And I came to realize that there was not one business school I could find in the country, literally not one, that taught government relations. They just pretend like it doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist. Let's pretend like it's not there. Despite, like I said, every major company in the United States has a government relations department. So I wrote Cereal Wars to explain to people what you really do as a lobbyist as opposed to what they think you do as a lobbyist. And it's all true tales of lobbying for Kellogg. And it got me to a lot of different areas, including taking Muhammad Ali to ground zero 9 days after 9/11. And it got me to South Africa, and it got me to doing international trade. So I wrote the book purposely, I call it a plane ride overview. You can read it in a couple of hours. And if I do say so, it's done very well. I've gotten on the reading list at a lot of business schools because it allows someone down the hall to understand what he or she down the hall is doing in that government relations department. So that's how I got in the book writing business. But
That's really interesting. And I think that that's true, that most of us think that lobbyists just, go around lobbying to get the laws.
we go to cocktail parties and give away money. That's what most
Yeah.
people. That's what they all think.
I think that. All right, I wasn't going to get into that, but yeah, I do think that that's what people think.
Well, yeah, I have to tell you, the book, most people find it funny too. I mean, I'm pretty lighthearted about things, and I talk about going in the Oval Office and meeting President Bush, and meeting all these politicians and the things you do, and it's not all that serious, and you can lighten up and have some fun with it too. So.
Yeah. Joe Conjal said he loved Frosted Flakes except the pumpkin spice version.
Joe, I had nothing to do with the pumpkin spice version. In fact, to be honest, I had nothing to do with creating Frosted Flakes. But I do know people might have seen the movie Unfrosted, the new Seinfeld movie that came out about Pop-Tarts. And I actually do know the real people that created Pop-Tarts. And the movie was, huh?
I said, God bless them.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I did not know there are that many teenagers in America that could eat all those things. But
teenagers?
There are.
He's addicted. He's addicted, and I don't let him eat them.
All right.
You don't work for them anymore, so
no.
It's it's no big secret that they are junk food.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No comment. No comment.
There's no sugar. There's a sugar-free version, isn't there?
Oh,
I don't know. I've lost track of. I don't.
Yeah. No. But yeah, he loves them. He absolutely loves them. And still,
they're a great snack. Yeah. They're easy.
But you haven't
that was the beauty about
had any in a long time.
Being the lobbyist for Kellogg was everybody knew the company name. Everybody knows Tony the Tiger, and I'm talking around the world. We had plants in Japan, China, India, and you travel the world. And Tony Tigre, as they call him in Mexico, he's a household name there. So it was fun. It was it's almost an American institution. Kellogg and cornflakes and Tony the Tiger.
Definitely, yeah. No doubt about it. I mean, no doubt about it. We all grew up eating,
reading the cereal boxes and
Kellogg's.
Yeah.
Looking for the toy inside or whatever.
Mm-hmm. And our kids did too. And
so
probably
anyways, that's how I got into the book writing business, which I never thought I would do. Because after I left Kellogg, I then started my own lobby firm, and I had that for about a dozen years. It was great. I was just one-man band. Had a variety of different clients, enjoyed that. And then I decided, I'd write that book. And then I've written 3 books subsequent to that. And
well, the next one was run for Congress. So you think you want to run for Congress?
Yeah, in a moment of temporary insanity, I ran for Congress. Okay. That's the only thing I can blame it on. It was in 2018. I ran in the Democratic primary in a congressional district in Michigan. Spoiler alert, I found out if you come in second out of 6, that doesn't work. But it was quite an experience. And, let me, for a second, it was the most exhausting thing I ever did, was running for political office. It was literally exhausting. And I have the utmost respect. I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, I don't care what you are. If, as Teddy Roosevelt used to say, if you're willing to get into the arena, I have a great deal of respect for you, because it is exhausting. People are trying to catch you, making a mistake, saying the wrong word, giving the wrong nuance. You're constantly under the scope. You've got to raise a ton of money. That's the only way you can get your message out. And, people talk about social media, and I talk about it in the book, So You Think You Want to Run for Congress. The big kahuna is still that box in your living room. It's the TV. And it's a strange feeling when ads go on air and people literally stop you in grocery stores, people stop you walking down the streets. So what I did in this second book, once again, it was nonfiction, was I try to tell people what it entails to run for Congress. I mean, it was a big time campaign. I raised a lot of money. I came in second out of 6. But I go through detail of what it's like, where you go, what you have to do. Most people, got some good laughs out of it. Some people got some good laughs out of me running, period, but that was a whole nother issue. But in the book itself, I try to make it, I make a little fun of myself, and you'll have a meet and greet at someone's house, and 2 people come. You say, well, this is moving ahead here, that kind of thing. But it was an experience. It was an experience. And so if I do say, I speak at about a dozen universities every year. Usually it's sort of a combination of talking about lobbying, talking about running for office. And, I just tell the students, it's, thank God people are willing to do it. And it's the most thankless thing I can think of. You're a cross between a door-to-door salesman and a telemarketer is what you end up becoming. And it's an exhausting undertaking. So that was book number 2. So You Think You Want to Run for Congress.
Joe Congela wants to know how much truth was in the show on the History Channel about Kellogg's versus Post.
I'm not familiar with that one, Joe. There was one, the Business Chronicles, which was a podcast about the history of Kellogg, which has a lot of Post in it, because Post was a patient at the Kellogg Sanitarium in Battle Creek. That's how Post became a competitor. And so that was and the 2 factories are literally still across the street. You could throw a stone from one to the other, from what was the old main Kellogg plant to what is now the Post plant. But I really can't comment on that. I'm not that familiar with that show. Yeah.
And Chris Chrisman says, in 2001, I served as mayor of my small town for 4 years. Never again. Shudder.
I get it, Chris. I used to think being the mayor, oh my God, people calling you in the middle of the night, big town, small town. It was bad enough if you'd been a representative off in the state capitol somewhere, but being the mayor, God bless you.
Sort of like being a pastor.
Kind of.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that again either.
No.
And then so after that, and by the way, all these books, you can check out my bio and other books, GeorgeFranklinAuthor.com, if you're interested. And this one, when I went off into fiction, I said, well, let's have some fun with this. And as the head of government relations for a big company, everybody knows about companies getting economic incentives. And I used to always kind of chuckle to myself about these people sort of wallowing in the government trough in the name of free enterprise and capitalism. And the irony and the juxtaposition of the two, I always thought was quite funny. So I wrote this fictional book about going after economic incentives, and it's a lark. It's a fun tale. It's a kind of wild and woolly tale, but I had a good time with it. And as with my final book, A Feeding Frenzy, there's always a line of reality through these books, and they may get a little far-fetched. They may get a little Carl Hyacin, Christopher Buckley kind of, often, La La Land here, but they all have a line of education to them, in the sense they're based on kind of what really goes on and what lobbyists think and how companies react and what people do. So my 2 fiction books, I think, are educational in a fun way, but they'll give you a feel for what lobbyists, who they are, what they do, how they react, where they go, what they think.
Chris Chrisman said, we've done it this way for 30 years. we've done it more than 30 years. Why change? LOL. Yeah, we've done it this way for a long time.
Oops.
That's for sure. Whoops is right. Well, I think we have to go to our first commercial.
Yes, we do. Time to take a little break. And when we come back, George, I think you're planning on reading a little bit from one of your books there, right?
Will do.
All right. And hang on just a second, folks. Don't go away. Got a lot to come.
It's 1919, and Eric Laska returns from the war in Europe. Two new enemies await him in the small coal mining town he calls home. One is a threat to his relationship with Rebecca, the love of his life. The other, a bloodthirsty beast, is stalking the mining town residents. The townspeople suspect Eric of one of the killings. An old man and Rebecca's 11-year-old sister have seen the beast, but only Eric believes their story. To protect the town and clear his name, he's forced to prove the werewolf exists. Available on Amazon. The Horror Within by Marjorie Swift Doring.
Profiteers are preying on displaced souls who seek freedom, sacrificing everything. Wanting to give their children hope and a future, but they wrongly trust on a roll of loaded dice. Teens are picked off and sold into slavery. Cartels offer the choice to strong young men to move illegal drugs over the border, or die. The R Group and CATS team leaders want to end Mateo's inhuman business model. The heroes must derail the human exploitation and opioid epidemic, killing people in increasingly dramatic numbers. If they can save even a few from the jaws of death, they win. The present-day battle is in full swing, yet it can end badly for humanity unless the Enigma heirs triumph. Who will survive the onslaught, and how fast can they make Mateo pay?
Many secrets are hidden within the darkness of the jungle. Now comes part 4 in the Jaguar series by retired Hollywood scriptwriter George Dismukes. In this saga, Brandon, Andrea, and Naja, the Black Jaguar, go deep into the Mato Grosso jungle on a mission to rescue 2 kidnapped children. During their journey, they encounter many dangers, including Yanomami Indians, bent on revenge for the murder of one of their warriors.
Return of the Jaguar is book 4 in the Jaguar series, starting with 2 faces of the Jaguar, the Lost City, and the Jaguar's Quest. All 4 are available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other bookseller websites worldwide. Return of the Jaguar is a must-read.
And we're back.
Hello.
Hey there.
Now, would you like to read from Feeding Frenzy, I think, did you
Sure.
say? Okay.
Sure. And let me once again emphasize that it's all fiction, but there's a thread of reality throughout. And when I was the lobbyist for Kellogg, I was also chairman of the board of Western Michigan University. And we wanted to get an earmark to help the School of Aviation. And so we went to see the chairman, he's no longer alive, a fellow named Murtha, who chaired the Defense Appropriations Subcommittee, about helping us get an earmark for the School of Aviation in the Defense Appropriation bills. And we went to meet with him, and the meeting lasted about 45 minutes, explained to him why it was important, why we wanted to do it, had a briefing book, gave him the briefing book. He wrote on there $5 million, gave it to the aide, and that was the end of the lobbying. We did nothing more. My job when I went back to Michigan was get people to do nothing. $5 million in the Defense Appropriations Bill is an accounting error, okay? Didn't draw attention to it, if we didn't talk about it, if we didn't call people and thank them about it. It would just be tucked in there. And at the end of the day, a year later, we came out, we had a $5 million earmark. Okay. And so in a feeding frenzy, my lead character is a lobbyist named PJ Snake Boots Jackson. Okay. and PJ represents a lot of people in the food industry. And he, like a lot of lobbyists, has lunch with other lobbyists. Lobbyists sort of run in packs like wolves. And the food lobbyists hang out with other food lobbyists. The bank lobbyists hang out with bank lobbyists. And defense lobbyists hang out with the defense, So they sort of run in packs. So in this scene, PJ Snake Boots Jackson is in the Palm Restaurant, which is a big political hangout, where they have I never can pronounce the word, caricatures on the wall, drawings of people on the wall of all the sort of famous people around Washington. And he's in there with the lobbyist from the Consumer Brands Association, whose name is Holly Hawkins, Charlie Harrison from the Food Marketing Institute, which is all the grocery stores, and Randy Lesher from the Farm Bureau. So they're all sitting there plotting and planning together in the Palm. Snake Boots was quiet as he mulled the conversation. Ever the mercenary, he finally joined in by commenting that he had 3 new clients and that he would figure out some way to take advantage of the 3 new loony bins on their behalf. He might use them on offense or defense, but either way, they might come in handy to get his clients the fair advantage they deserved. All his clients wanted was a level playing field tilted their way. He then summed up where they stood. Quote, gang, the agriculture of Propst bill is going to be north of $26 billion, which is enough slop to feed every special interest pig in D.C. We all know that it will become part of a massive omnibus spending package that will be passed in the middle of the night at the end of the session. It will be the legislative equivalent of link sausage. The House will stuff their sausage, as will the Senate, and they will be linked together. During consideration and debate in final passage, neither side will know or care what is in the other. All you need to do is get in one version or the other, and you are home free. Forget all that civic book bullshit about getting it through the House and Senate. One will do just fine. It's going to be a feeding frenzy, and I plan to get my fill.
Wow. That's really something.
I like the level playing field tilted toward them.
My way.
That's right. And that's what some congressman told me that one day, and I've never forgot. And all I have to do to write these books, I just keep notes over the years of quips and comments and statements like that. And he said all these people want is a level playing field tilted their way. And the other one is they just want their fair advantage. That's the other one.
They just want their fair advantage.
Exactly.
Do you understand, Senator, what level means? I'm not sure you do.
No, they don't know.
Joe Conchal said that was great. Very interesting.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you. I try to capture the flavor in a feeding frenzy of real life lobbying, and it's all a spoof. I mean, it's all somewhat exaggerated. Man, have to be careful. Some of it's not so exaggerated, but you do meet a cast of characters and scallywags and different kind of folks in the world of Washington that makes for a good book.
I like their names.
Yeah, good job on that.
Yeah. Well, PJ Snake Boots Jackson.
Yeah, I really
is a modeled after a real lobbyist who will go unidentified.
Probably wise.
But there's a scene in there which actually took place in this lobbyist office, which I just have never forgotten. I'll call him PJ for the conversation here. I was in his office on K Street, and he had a new client sitting there in the office with us. And PJ was out of Central Cassie. He's got the gut. He's got the cigar. He's from Oklahoma. He's bellowing out. He's this good old boy. He tells you, he yells out to his admin, Matilda, get Senator Dole on the phone. Get Senator Dole on the phone. Or somebody like, it was McGovern or Dole or some big name at the time. And so PJ gets on the phone. He goes, "Sir, yeah, PJ here. Yeah, I'll be glad to help you on that. Yeah. Now there's some things I need to talk to you about." And he goes on for 5 minutes, this animated conversation about Senator this and Senator that, and we need to talk and we need to get together. And, well, okay, I'll be back in touch. Hangs the phone up. The other client, it was like a new client, he says, "Well, PJ, I got to go. I'll see you later." So he leaves and goes down, leaves. And I looked at PJ. I said, "Is that really Senator, Snort or whoever?" He goes, "No, it was some intern, but they like to think you're talking to the senator." I thought, holy God almighty, this. So I didn't make it up. I got it in the book, but, it goes on and on.
That's all right.
So the client left happy, though.
The client was happy. He's all impressed. He's telling everybody around town, PJ's talking to Senator Snort, and he talks to him personally all the time. And, there's some kid on the other end, it's an intern from college. Like, I got some delusional guy on the phone. What do I do? Right?
Oh, boy.
Wow. Joy Shelton York said, "I'm sure there is an element of truth in everything that you wrote."
Yep, Joy, that's the scary part. If you read the book, this whole democracy thing, you'll reconsider if you read it.
I've sort of reconsidered it in the last 4 years, actually.
Yeah. But let me.
Go ahead. We'll wait.
It is. I assure you, it's very bipartisan. I made a point of making it very bipartisan, and it's good-natured fun. I'm not telling tales or being vicious, but it's fun story based on real stuff.
For real.
Yeah.
Joe Conjal says, "I always suspected that's what they do, LOL."
They do, Joe.
The fake conversations. Yeah.
That's hysterical.
Oh my goodness. I know.
Scary, but
one thing, if I could just go back, if it's okay, on the serial war book for a second, and what lobbyists really do.
Yeah.
I had two different things, issues, whatever you want to call them, that occurred that were sort of very unusual, and people don't normally think about it. But lobbyists end up sort of becoming, if you're a football fan, kind of the free safety of the company. You play football, they had a free safety who's not assigned to one person to cover, but kind of roams the backfield. And, I was a one-person office for Kellogg Company in Washington. So I was kind of a company free safety. And the 9/11 with Muhammad Ali was one of the damnedest days of my life. And that's in the book. But what happened was, we all know where we were, what happened on 9/11. And about 2-3 days after 9/11, our then CEO, who was a brand new CEO named Carlos Gutierrez, who, by the way, became Secretary of Commerce under George W. Bush. But Carlos was new CEO. And he calls me, he said, "Can you come over and see me?" So I go over to his office, and he said, "Well, I just got a call from," it was either Governor Pataki or Mayor Giuliani. And he said, would we be willing to help bring Muhammad Ali to ground zero? And what had happened, Ali, as a Muslim, had issued a statement against the violence and called it, evilness of what had happened on 9/11. And what most people didn't realize, he lived in Benton Harbor, Michigan, which was, a 20-minute drive from Battle Creek. And he lived in actually an old gangster's home there. And so Carlos says, "What do you think?" And I said, I think we ought to do it. And he said, "Okay." He said, "But I want you need to go with him." So on September 20th, 9 days after 9/11, I got on the Kellogg jet in Battle Creek, and we had arranged with our friends at Whirlpool to meet Ali and his wife Lonnie, and there were two other guys with him, Michael and someone else. We picked them up at the Whirlpool hangar. It was about a 5-minute flight. I mean, it was just a little pop to Benton Harbor. But we then flew to White Plains, New York, because the New York airports were closed, where they had a police escort take us into the city. And the first place we went was the fire station where all the guys had been killed. And I say all of them, most of them. And the grief was, it was incredible. I mean, it was a pile of flowers. They were grieving people there. Mayor Giuliani was there. Governor Pataki was there. And it came in with Ali, and this happened throughout the day at the other stops. Total strangers would come up, start hugging him, tugging on his sleeve, crying with him, talking about where they were when he fought, the Thrilla in Manila or whatever, all these different fights. And it was just the damnedest reaction. Total strangers running up to him, embracing him. And so we spent 45 minutes, an hour at this fire station. And like I said, the grief was you just couldn't believe it. And then the police escort took us to the missing persons center, which was they had warehouses on the docks. They converted into this missing persons action. And on one wall, there must have been 400 pictures of people that were missing in the World Trade Centers. And it was, high school prom pictures, wedding pictures, birthday pictures, just pictures of people. And once again, came in with Ali. And it was the same thing. People just came up and hugging him and grabbing him and tugging on his sleeve and crying and talking about where they were and how glad they were he was there. And we were all in emotional overload. It's like anything I've ever been through. Then we went from there to I think it was the CNN Center, where he read a little statement. And then we went to the unimaginable. The police escorts, and I have a picture of this in the book, we're driving down New York. There is a military checkpoint with armed military guards stopping the cars. And behind the guard, and I'm guessing it's 4 or 5 blocks away, is the World Trade Center, and I'm guessing it to be 13 stories. It's still smoking. There's still smoke coming out of the rubble. And we got up there, and we spent another couple of hours going around tent to tent to tent, where the emergency responders had set up operations. And we took pictures with the cops and the firemen and the medical technicians. And then we left there, and I don't know what time it was. It was 5 or 6 o'clock at night by this point. We drove black to white planes, got on the company plane, flew them back to Benton Harbor. And then we flew, Kellogg jet back to Battle Creek. And then I drove home to Kalamazoo, which is like 30 minutes from Battle Creek. And the next day, I'm not exaggerating, I woke up and said, did I dream this? Did I really do what I did yesterday? And it was one of the damnedest days of my life. And but I was so proud of Kellogg. They never issued a press release. They didn't make an announcement. They didn't try to take credit. They didn't try to tell the world how wonderful we're there. Nobody, except for like 4 or 5 of us in the company, ever knew it happened until years later. And it was really proud of Kellogg. They didn't exploit it. They didn't take advantage of it. They just did it because it was the right thing to do. And that in the life of a lobbyist is rather atypical, I have to admit, but it was quite an experience.
That says something toward the integrity of Kellogg Company, for sure.
Yeah. No, it was wonderful.
It also says something about the response of all of America to 911. I mean, it was, Joe Conjal says, a day you will never forget. No.
Never forget.
I can't imagine what it was like to be there so soon after it happened. That had to be.
It was surreal. And this military checkpoint in the streets of New York. And it was like out of a movie. And I kept thinking, am I really seeing this?
Right.
And then the other one that's also in the first book, that was a little unusual is Kellogg was in South Africa, like hundreds of other American companies, during apartheid. And it became a major political issue in the United States in the late 70s and the early 80s that a lot of people wanted the companies to divest themselves of their presence in South Africa. And we were, as a consumer goods company, we were under a lot of political pressure. And our then chairman, CEO, a fellow named Bill Lamoth, who was of great integrity, he had said, you know what, we are not leaving. But what we're going to do is we're going to treat the employees, black and white, just as we would if it was Omaha, Nebraska, or Battle Creek, Michigan. And so we literally recognized the Black Train Union, which was led by a guy named Christopher Lamini, Black South African, who worked in the plant, who was also active in the African National Congress, okay, and was seen by the state as a terrorist revolutionary. And we sort of knew it was eventually going to happen, but when it happened, it was pretty scary because I got a call from the plant manager in Springs, South Africa, that the state police had gone into the township, that's where the black people were forced to live, and had taken Christopher away. And this is at a time when people magically fell out of buildings and magically were found unalive the next day and had died. And so the plant manager said, I'm scared for Christopher's, life. So I called Bill Lamoth, our chairman, at home in Battle Creek, and I told him what happened. And in about a minute, he said, okay, I tell you what I want you to do. I want you to get a message to President Botha, P.W. Botha, that if Christopher is not released immediately unharmed, I'm walking out this door and announcing we are leaving South Africa. Well, it turned out that the chairman of the Africa subcommittee, who was a major proponent of divestiture, was our local congressman. Okay. And we were at odds with him. And he was a decent, honorable guy, though. Let me emphasize that. He was, he believed what he believed, we believed what we believed, but we respected each other. But the South African government was quite aware of where our headquarters was and who our congressman was. And so we had sort of license to do things that other people didn't because of the politics. Anyways, Monday morning, I got a hold of the ambassador's office and I said, would you please tell President Botha that if Christopher is not released immediately unharmed, he's going to walk out the door and announce we're leaving South Africa.
Please.
Please, sir.
Will you please tell him?
The next day, President Botha called our chairman and said, Christopher will be released, which he was immediately unharmed. Fast forward in a fun way, Mandela gets released. Christopher becomes a member of parliament. So I had to go lobby him.
That's pretty funny.
But it was quite a story.
We need to go to our next commercials, but first, Joyce Shelton York said very moving. She was talking about the 911 story. It was very moving. And Chris Chrisman said people are basically good. The way people responded to 911 is what he was talking about. But wow, those were two amazing stories.
Yes, indeed. We need to take our last break, and
don't go away.
Don't go away, folks. We'll be right back.
Yeah.
An unforgettable mystery thriller that will transport you back to 17th century England. Introducing Dream of Courage, facing fear head-on, your passport to 17th century mystery, mayhem, and murder. Follow Robert and John Rushworth through Leeds' bustling Briggate district, where danger lurks in the shadows, embodied by the thief-taker Jacob Wilding. You will laugh, you will cry, and be in awe of the twists and turns. Its meticulous attention to character development, emotional nuance, and the unfolding of the story's layers promise a compelling and emotionally charged journey. The U.S. National Times said, modern writers usually don't know what it was like to live in the past, but Rushworth Brown does this with great skill. Uncover the secrets of Smythe, the enigmatic tavern keeper who sends Robert to the Haven, to the pirate Captain Girlington. Will he outwit danger in the nick of time?
Have you wanted to publish your story? Have you thought about self-publishing? Today is your day. 5-star Amazon review. Self-publish your ebook on Amazon for free in 2024. This ebook is available on Amazon by Becca L. Jones.
Paradise, my prison. Charlie Flint awakens from a deep sleep and finds himself alone on a tropical beach surrounded by a palm tree jungle and exotic animals. He cannot remember who he is or anything about his life. First, he must find food and build shelter and protect himself from hidden dangers. As his memory gradually returns, it reveals what a very flawed person he is. A man who made too many mistakes, made too many enemies. The implications of the truth are staggering. How did Charlie get there? And will he save himself? Paradise, My Prison is the riveting new suspense thriller from retired Hollywood scriptwriter George Dismukes. Paradise, My Prison by George Dismukes is available in jacketed hardcover, softcover, and all ebook formats worldwide.
And we're back.
And we are. So, George, tell us a little about your publishing journey. I know you had a lot of connections, probably, so it might have been different for you than a lot of,
No, I don't think so. In fact, actually, Rob, I learned these terms. Tell me if I'm saying it right. I learned it from you. What you called their plotters and there's pantsers.
Yeah.
Right.
Pantsers, if I said this. Well, I'm definitely a pantser. And I've written two fiction, two nonfiction, and I think the fiction were harder to write because you had to sort of create the story. The one about running for Congress and the one about being the lobbyist, they sort of written themselves, and I had to go back and reconnect some stories and talk to different people and make sure I had my facts right and pull different things together. I did. As a total rookie, make a terrible mistake that really hurt me. But in the first book, Serial Wars, I talk about Ali and going to Ground Zero. And so I also have a story about me in the Oval Office with President H.W. Bush. Okay. So I had in the book, I had a picture of me and Ali on the plane and me and Ali with the cops and me and, different pictures, And then I also had the picture on the other part of the book with me with, President Bush sitting in the Oval Office and talking about this stuff. Well, then I found out I couldn't use those pictures unless I had written permission from the people in it. Well, I didn't know that, right? And I'm like, they got, I got everything all geared up, ready to go. And the publisher says, we need written permission. Well, trying to get written permission from Muhammad Ali's operation, I'd probably still be working on it. And then I told him, I said, well, President Bush, I said, he sent me the picture. I mean, it wasn't like I ran into the Oval Office and snuck a picture. It says, I'm sitting in the Oval Office. It says, George, blah, 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 I said, doesn't matter. You got to get written permission. So it was a bummer because I couldn't use them in the book. So I do have the picture of the view of the World Trade Center smoking from the checkpoint in the street because it didn't have any sort of visible people in it. But it was a incredible rookie mistake. And then the other one, in a feeding frenzy, I wanted to use Kenny Rogers' The Gambler. Okay, I forget the words, but we all heard it a million times.
Yeah.
And then the editorial people
know when to fold them.
Exactly.
Hold them.
That one. And so the editors that were helping me, they said, you better watch out on that one because that's was it copyright infringement.
That's copyrighted. Mm-hmm.
And they said, if you use more than a word or two. So I had to make up my own words to that tune. So I told people, I said that PJ used to sing a version of it, but these were his language. Okay.
Yeah.
But once again, it was a rookie mistake. I thought, well, it's on the radio all the time. Everybody's heard it. So that was interesting. I learned, and that was in a feeding frenzy. I found out I couldn't use Roger's words.
Do you want to clarify what you were asking?
Yeah. How did you get the publishers interested in your work? Did they come to you?
I've self-published.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So
you're indie published.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you were talking about publishers, you were talking about
the Amazon. When the Amazon was it was a company in Indiana that was publishing it for me that I had gone to, and they told me I couldn't. And then I used a group in North Carolina to do the editing, and they sort of get you poised to publish.
Gotcha.
And they were the ones that told me about Kenny Rogers. You couldn't use it.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're indie published, but you had people that helped you format the book and get it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And edit it. And then, I am real proud, if I can toot my horn on this. I'm a bridesmaid of award winners. I came in the International Book Awards last year. I came in the final 4 in the humor category for A Feeding Frenzy.
Awesome.
And in the Next Generation Indie Awards, once again, I came in the final 4 in the humor division. So
that's good.
I'm a permanent bridesmaid, but I'm proud to be part of the wedding. So I'm just glad to be there. I'd like to have won,
there's nothing wrong
how
with that
many
at all.
millions of books are published every year? That's a good thing, right?
Yeah. So that was fun, actually getting picked up.
So Joe Conjal wants to know, George, what are you doing regarding marketing your books, and what has worked best for you?
Shows like this. And this is the best, because it's people interested in books that are listening to this, and they're people that will buy books. We were talking earlier. I've done a lot of the Feeding Frenzy. Cereal Wars. I've got it on a lot of business school reading lists, which is sort of the gift that keeps giving.
There you go.
I hit the college circuit with it. I've probably been to 20 colleges. Just
brilliant.
2 months ago, I was at Colorado State University talking, and I go and talk about lobbying, and I talk about running for Congress, sort of a combination, whichever one they want. But the getting on the reading list of the business school I called the gift that keeps giving, because they never take you off. Okay. But I use the lobby handle and the right. I speak at George Mason every year. I speak at George Washington every year. Like there's at Colorado. I've been to Michigan, Western Michigan, Georgia, Princeton. I've been all sorts of schools. And that's effective marketing. And then I've been able to create some free media, a lot of radio, and also groups. I go talk to the Rotary Club and the civics clubs, and that. So it's I've got the advantage of I don't think people are usually kind of interested in lobbying, which you do. They read about it, and it's sort of a general interest. And then because I was with Kellogg, which we all start off kidding around about Tony the Tiger, and Kellogg it's an American institution.
Yeah.
And everybody knows it, and it's so they have some fun with it, and so it's a lot of, be blunt, a lot of self-promotion and creating my own sort of media activity, and then finally the social media. But what I found happened on that is I get picked up by professors from different schools, because professors like put you up on LinkedIn, okay, and then I'll get a contact from another professor. Or when I go to like at Colorado State, there was someone there from Northern Colorado who then called me up and said, would you come to Northern? And then, so it's a multiplier. And does that answer the question? Is that, yeah.
I think so. I think so.
Hold
Yep.
on just for a minute. We need to say good night to the people in Atlanta who are listening.
Yes. Thank you, WDJY listeners.
And
out
can
there
I
in
tell
Atlanta.
can I tell the station that I'm a constituent of theirs? I live in Atlanta.
There you go. There you go.
99.1. So I'll
There you
tune
go.
them
You
in.
can invite them over to dinner if you would like. I wouldn't recommend that.
Okay.
But you can invite them to buy your book.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go. Anyway, thank you for joining us, everybody in Atlanta, and we're going to continue on.
We're going to continue on
with the video
show.
portion of the show here.
Yeah, we just have to do that every time so that we can have a clean break for the radio station. Here we go. We've got another. Joe Conjal says you should ask Kellogg to offer your book for sale in the back of their cereal boxes.
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe.
I'm a pretty good salesman, but I'm not that good.
You could put a little miniature copy in there, and the kids could look forward to opening it up. Right?
Well, I will tell you, and when I first went to work for Kellogg, these people would come there trying to sell the little trinkets and stuff that you promote, and
Yes.
I kept thinking, how these guys, these things cost like 10 cents a piece or 5 cents a piece. And then someone's finally said, Franklin, if you put them on 80 million boxes, that's a lot of nickels, or whatever the number was. And you go, whoa, the scale of, that company and the numbers of food items created. It's a little hard to imagine.
Right. Yeah. 5
That's
cents
incredible.
every box. That's pretty good.
That's
money.
a lot of nickels. Yeah.
It is. Joe says, well, maybe 4 box tops. They could give 4 box tops to get your book.
Get your book. Yeah.
But yeah, it's just really so fascinating to me. I mean, the 911 story is just very moving. I think that brought us all back there to 911. And also the story about apartheid. Think about that because of Kellogg. Think of what you've seen and done. That's really impressive,
Yeah, and once again, and I was really proud of this. The congressman I mentioned that was the chair of the Africa subcommittee. Okay, he has since died. And when I ran for Congress, his widow endorsed me.
Oh,
and
that's wonderful.
Yeah, and it was he was a good, decent person. The company was doing what we thought was right. Be honest, there was a little right on both sides. You could figure out why divestiture made sense and why staying made sense. And the other thing that I was really proud of the company was it didn't have anything to do with money. Everybody wants to blame corporations, always money. The easiest, cheapest thing that was of close. It was less than 1% of the company, this little business in South Africa. In the heat we were taking and the criticism, if you could easily say, let's just close the damn thing and go home. Let's get out of here. But our chairman, Bill Lamoth, he just felt strongly. He said, I'm not going to abandon those people. I'm just not going to leave them. These are the best jobs they've ever had. And never once did we go to the plant floor and someone wrote up and say, please leave South Africa. They were like, thank God you're here. Thank you for what you're doing. And so once again, the company just did it because it was we thought it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So if you want to run for president, I'll vote for you.
I'm not old enough.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you got a point. Valid point.
Well, I guess with this new gang, I'm sort of old enough there, but it's a split the difference.
Yeah, Kamala's only 59?
59, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I tell you, I'm just not quite old enough to do that yet. When I get old enough, I'll.
So, just to run through this again, you wrote Cereal Wars, which is nonfiction about your time with Kellogg's, and
Lobbyist.
then you yes, as a lobbyist. Then you wrote So You Think You Want to Run for Congress, which was about your congressional run.
Right.
Then you wrote Incentives,
which is fictional.
Which is fictional, and it's the holy water of free enterprise.
Yeah, government
Okay.
incentives, or water in the flowers of free enterprise here.
Right, which is like historical fiction. There's a lot of things you can learn when you read historical fiction.
You got it. And I did it for years, and
Yeah.
I used to, I used to love it when you have to sign a contract when you get these economic incentives, and so sometimes things don't quite work out the way it was all supposed to.
Yeah.
And so I'd have to go back to the powers that be and who would want to renege or this and that. And I'd say, hey, fellas, see, we signed a contract. The reason they gave you these incentives is because you're going to do all these things and you promised to do it. And invariably, always be some young bucky in the room trying to impress the bosses. He'd say, they don't understand the free enterprise system. And I said, boys, we're getting money from the government. This has nothing to do with free enterprise. Like, hello. So that's where the idea of that book came from. It's like, God save us.
And then there's Feeding Frenzy.
Yeah, and that one just came out the end of, it's not even been a year ago. And if I do say it's selling well, and those are the ones I always want to say I won the awards. Because I did not win the awards, but I was one of the 4 finalists in both those groups. Oh. And most people get a good chuckle out of it or have some fun with it.
I do want to put your website up here. So now if you want to get in touch with him, his website is georgefranklinauthor.com. And for those of you that are listening, that's Georgefranklinauthor. And all of his contacts are on there, and his books and everything.
You can email him.
Yeah, email me. Yeah.
Yep.
And
everything.
If you have a group or book club or anybody, looking for a speaker, I have fun doing that. And I got a little road show, so I'm available. I'm cheap.
That's awesome.
And if you're in the
cheap.
area,
yeah, I'm cheap. It's called free. I'm having
that's
fun.
pretty cheap. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cheap. I'll make you buy a booker.
We'll say you're cheap but classy.
Yeah. Well, what I love is when Rob, when you do the college kids, because they're in the class, they can't leave. You gotta,
yeah.
You see some kid in the back going, "Oh God, please end this." The kid.
Yeah. Captive audience, right?
Yeah.
I don't think with you talking, they're like, "Oh God, please end this." I'm pretty sure they're laughing and learning a lot at the same time.
It's usually the professor saying, "Oh my God, what have I done?"
I let him loose.
That's right.
What was I thinking?
Well, Rob and Joe was talking about y'all live down in Florida. I said, I went 1 year at the University of Florida.
Yeah.
I left before they asked me to leave, but it was a hell of a year. I want you to know that was quite a year at the University of Florida.
There you go. Plenty of sunshine, right?
You got it.
A party school. But it isn't. I don't want to say it's a party school because it is not a party school.
I'm sure
I've heard the University of Miami is a party school. But we live in Tampa, so I'm going to say.
That's where I grew up. Tampa, Florida. Yeah.
Yep. And you said you were just back for a visit.
Yeah. I was back there about a week or so ago. And so I don't get back to you, but I love Tampa. It was fun.
Yeah.
Oh, do you want to give a shout out for the person that did your book covers?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Julie.
She's here
Davis.
in Tampa, right?
Yeah, she's in Tampa, and she does a terrific job. And if anybody wants her contact info, I'll be glad to send me an email or something.
Right.
But she kept it light. Like I said, all the books, fiction, nonfiction. I try to have some levity in it, and make it fun. And if I do say, most people think they have a fun time reading it. They're not textbooks. There's nothing laborious about it. I'm not trying to pound. There's no philosophy I'm trying to pound in you. And anyways, I thought she does a good job of capturing the tone on the covers. if anybody's interested, pop me an email and I'll tell you how to write her,
And so, do you have another book in the works?
Yeah, I got one more. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think I got one more in me, and I'm going to have PJ Snake Boots Jackson, his law firm, lobby law firm, which I'm a lawyer. I'm a lawyer lobbyist. He's going to get joined by a female lobbyist, and she's going to represent the adult entertainment industry. Okay. And I'm working on a good name for him, but anyway, when I write this one, it may put me out of business. So I'm making sure this is the last one once I get off into that.
So let me ask the question. Are there adult entertainment lobbyists running around Washington?
This is the honest to God truth. Okay. In about I was a young, I went to college and law school at night, working on Capitol Hill. And like, I'm going to say this was 1972, 73. And, when you work on Hill, you always wanted to go to receptions because you got free food and booze, right? So if you could get invited, you're in college, you go. Well, we're standing outside the Capitol, and they said there was a group called Coyote. And I forget what the acronym stood for, but it was Ladies of the Night lobbying for laws to change the laws. And they had a reception. And I said, oh my God, if I could only go to that. But I did. And I reconstructed. I have to figure out what that was. It was Coyote. It's something about your old dated ethics or something. Get rid of your old dated ethics or something. Uh-huh. But, it's all there. I'm not making it up. And I didn't go, by the way. I did not go. But I just heard about it. And I thought, I'll believe anything at this point. It's
oh, well, I guess there's somebody lobbying for everything then.
Oh, yeah. Well, here's a figure. Last year, there were 12,900 registered lobbyists in Washington. Okay. They spent, I think it was $9 billion lobbying. Okay.
Wow.
And every cause has a lobbyist. And but what people don't understand in seriousness is the system doesn't function without lobbyists, because and the other thing is, a good lobbyist is the opposite of the image of lobbyists. Because if you're a good lobbyist, you're selling trust, integrity, facts, and reliability. Because I like to use the example, as a Kellogg lobbyist for years, Senator Debbie Stabenow, United States Senator, she chairs the Agriculture Committee. I've known Debbie since she was in the State House, the state representative in Lansing, okay? And then she became a senator, state senator, then she went to Congress, then she became a U.S. senator. And as I like to use the example, when she was in the State House in Lansing, I'm sure I could have pulled a fast one or misled her or done something one time, okay? And, maybe gotten away with it. But after that, I'm out of business with her forever. Because if she doesn't trust you, if she doesn't think she can rely on you, if she doesn't think that you're going to tell her the truth about the politics of what you're trying to get her to do or not to do, you're out of business. So a good lobbyist is the exact opposite of the image, because that's what you're selling. They trust you, and they're trusting you. And the worst nights I've ever had in my professional career is when I mistakenly had told some senator or congressman something, and I go home or went back to the office or whatever, and I thought, holy God, I was wrong. We didn't make that product here, or that plant didn't do this or something. And so the first thing I would do in the morning is rerun the traps and go back and say, hey, I made a mistake. I'm sorry, I was wrong. Blah blah blah, because you're selling your integrity. So, when I talk to people about lobbyists, it's not everybody's a special interest. That's the stupidest word in Washington. Everybody's a special interest. General Motors is a special interest. The Sierra Club is a special interest. The Pfizer is a special interest. The whatever coalition do good, that's why they're there. A special interests are the people opposed to you, whoever they are, because it has this pejorative connotation. But the word means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. And so when I ran for Congress, I got attacked for being a lobbyist, which is stupid. They can attack you for who you lobby for. I mean, that's, that's the issue, who you lobby for. Is that whether you're a lobbyist or not? Because, like I said, Sierra Club is lobbyists. The National Network of Depression Centers. I used to be a volunteer lobbyist for them. I mean, so it's this silliness of, lobbyists are bad is ridiculous.
You weren't lobbying for adult entertainment, so,
But my new character is. And she's going to do a hell of a job. I'll tell you.
She's going to do that, though.
I think that's what she's going to do. I'm not sure. But I gotta
how there are special agents and very special agents, so she's a very special interest.
There you go.
Oh, my goodness. Well, this has been amazing.
Amazing. Yeah, I just love your stories.
Thank you for having me, and appreciate the opportunity. Yeah.
Thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. It's been really great meeting you.
Yes, and fascinating, and very educational, may I say.
Thank you.
Let's see. Joe Conjal says, I never thought about or realized how political a cereal company would be. Amazing and extremely interesting stories tonight. Thank you for a great show, George, and of course, Rob and Joan. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Joe, for hanging in there tonight.
Thank you.
Chris Chrisman said, a fun show. Thanks, George.
Thank you.
George Shelton says, very interesting. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, the audience, for listening and always being there. And we really love and appreciate all of your comments and your questions.
Yes, we do. So we're going to move you over to the side. Hang on. Okay, you're okay. All right. So I want everybody to know next week, Steve Altier, same time, same place, 7:00 Eastern time right here. Steve's going to talk about his new book, Mr. Smithers, I think it's called. And tomorrow night, join us on Voice of Indie podcast at 8:00. Stay tuned here at the end of the show and listen to the little blurb on Voice of Indie and see how to get over to it. And we'll be interviewed by Beam Weeks and Gary G's. And do you have anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think I've said everything I need to say.
Okay. Then I guess until next time.
That's all, folks. Good night.
Night, everybody.
Live every Wednesday, your Voice of Indie hosts Beam Weeks and Stephen G's welcome authors, musicians, publishing industry pros, artists, and assorted creative guests for an exciting interactive hour. Call in during the show or post questions and comments on Twitter for responses in real time. Meet your favorite indie creators, learn inside tips, network, and promote your work. The link for each week's show is pinned on Twitter atop @VoiceOfIndie. And you can receive the link every Wednesday morning in your inbox by subscribing to our newsletter at freshinkgroup.com. Check out Voice of Indie every Wednesday on Blog Talk Radio and catch hundreds of episodes archived everywhere from our websites to our YouTube channel and Spotify.
Thank you for joining us here on Meet the Author. Make sure you stay up to date with our show by clicking like, follow, and share. And you can find us on Spotify, iTunes, and more. See you next time on WLFE-DV.com.